Hello, everybody, and welcome to Take Your Time, a Persona podcast where we play through Persona 3 Reload in real time, along with the in-game calendar dates. My name is Tom Marks, joined, as always, by Jonathon Dornbush. Jonathan, how are you?
Hello. How are you? How's it going?
You're doing some animated waving there.
Yeah, I'm excited because we got so much to talk about this week. It's a wildly packed week.
Yeah, it is. It is a big one. We have a full moon. We have some story stuff outside of the full moon. We have just another new party member. Like, it's man, there's some stuff going on. We're going to talk about Tartarus. I almost said Mementos. We're going to talk about Tartarus a little bit more today. Yeah, it's a busy one. So this is the days September 1st through 7th. So a nice normal week at the very start of the month. I love when they time out like that. Mathematics, it's the best.
It is really satisfying. I do just want to say it is absolutely so nice to me that this week is the perfect beginning of the month.
When we don't plan it that way.
Yeah.
That's not like intentional, but it is great when it happens that way.
The small pleasures of life.
Indeed. I think let's cut the chit chat because we just got a lot to get through this week.
All right, so shut up. Jesus.
Yeah. Jonathan, please leave. We have to talk about Persona.
Fine, you do it yourself.
But before we get to that, we do want to thank, as always, with our confidant call out, our top tier Patreon backers, people backing at the Palace Ruler tier. We do really appreciate the support. It's above and beyond what we expect. We're happy for everyone to be here, but these folk are really, really helping us keep doing this, so we appreciate it so much. And those folk are Akechi is a Jelly Bean, Astral Clock Tower, Brody S., Cameron C., Claudia R., Dallas, Damon, Dan F., Danimal Lover 01, Default Titus, Dexter, Keegan H., Michael V., One More Month Until Metaphor. That's
Woo!
A new one.
Yeah. I love it. I love that's the name.
Yeah, you can catch it because it's 5 words. Amazing. I love it. Another addition to this chain every week. Philip S., Programmer Sid, Sam K., Sarah M., Shade, Willie Wang Wang, Zachary L. Thank you to everyone for joining us. And if you want to join and support in any way, shape, or form, you can like, you can subscribe, you can share, but you can also go to patreon.com/takeyourtime, which I said correctly on the first try this week.
Look at you.
And you can get bonus episodes there by backing. You can get episodes ad-free or a day early. You can chat with our community there, answer questions, vote on what the next bonus episode is going to be, all that sort of stuff. We'd love to have you. We have one more thing to do, which is the pop quiz answer. Can I be real with you?
Yes.
I forgot what I asked.
You asked.
Oh, yes, I do remember.
I should just make up a question. You asked, why is Jonathan so cute?
No, there's a scene where you can take Koromaru to the movies, and then you get kicked out of the movie theater, and you try to sneak Koromaru in, and you get caught by an employee, and I asked, what do you do to try to get Koromaru into the movie theater? What do you say? And did we get any silly answers, fun answers, correct answers?
Well, we got some answers, but of course, as you know, I did not do this, so I forget what the correct answer is. I think based on the results, there are some real answers in here, so I'll start with Sable wrote in and said, I think you tell the ticket guy that Koromaru is a realistic stuffed animal.
That is close enough. That is basically the correct answer, yes.
They also, their secondary guess, just in case that was wrong, though they got it right, was, or a prop from the movie, which I like even more.
Yeah, the exact wording is, you insist he's just a stuffed doll.
Oh, okay. Yes, I do remember that.
Insist is the part I like the most there because it means you really tried. You didn't take no for an answer.
That is, I mean, I appreciate the attempt, but it doesn't work out. No. Kiya Ruddock also on YouTube got that one right. We did get a couple answers, including Koromaru is actually my 8-year-old dorm mate's dad. He is allowed to see movies. And then, he tells him that Koromaru is his friend Ken's dad. So, yes, Passel of Hogs and Connor both chiming in with our reference for last week. So I appreciate that. To my big spoiler for the game, of course.
Thank you, everyone, for writing in. We appreciate you.
Yeah, and we'll have some other comments from everyone later in the episode. But, yeah, thank you for everyone for writing in.
we'll also have a pop quiz if I remember. Oh yeah, that was the one I was gonna do. Usually I think these things through, but as Jonathan and I discussed before the show, man, this week was crazy.
It happened, and it was a short week. With that.
Yes, it was. Anyway, let's jump into it, shall we?
Yes, because it wasn't a short week in the game, so let's get to it.
No, it was not. September 1st, second semester begins. And you know what happens with the second semester? New music at school.
What'd you think?
I dig it. It's poppy. It's high energy.
Yeah. The first time I heard this, I was so delighted because I just didn't expect it for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. And it was such a nice, oh, okay. Yeah, we are in a different mood or in a different place. The story is progressing, we're evolving. So I did like that kind of comes out of nowhere, but it's nice.
And it's only at school. I don't know. That's cool. I like that, to be clear. I think it's fun that the school has its own identity that's shifting in the stuff that's happening there. And then the rest of the world is just,
yes.
the rest of the town.
Especially as you get what is a pretty familiar thing that the game does of like kids talking about stuff.
Yeah. And the thing they're talking about also really caught me, which was interesting. I noted down, they're basically talking about how like people are just getting used to apathy syndrome being a thing, right? It's no longer this horrible boogeyman that people are worried about, this epidemic. It's now, it's just a part of life. And maybe you'll get, this person has apathy syndrome, right? It's starting to get to a joking level of sort of, this is just what happens, and that's real depressing.
Yeah, real depressing, and hit a little too close to home when I started to really think about it. And I'm like, for a game in 2009, oh boy.
Yeah, it's not wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's a quiz in class. You talk about superconductivity is one of the things, which, I wonder if that'll come up with an electrical thing later.
What a way to come back. It's just like, we're just talking about electricity now? Okay, sure, why not? And yeah. I'm sure it has no impact later on.
We can talk about me not reading signals later on, too, when it gets to that boss. Then I went to, before we get to the actual day, I went to Edogawa for his bonus lesson. Did you do this?
I did, yes. I remembered to do this, yes.
Yeah, you can go to Edogawa and just ask him to talk at you about fortune telling even more. And he tells you all about the process of how to tell a fortune with a tarot deck and what goes into it and that sort of thing, which, yeah, and I think he gives you like a Mipatra gem or something like that. He just gives you an item for sitting through it, which is, is neat. It's nice that this was optional. The way this game is going, I'm surprised they didn't put it at the end of a class and make it unskippable.
I mean, hey, they do make it take its time, though. This is certainly an Edogawa length lecture, but it's a private one for you. How nice of him.
Yeah, and like you were saying last week, or maybe the week before, whenever we were talking about the tarots, it was, it's cool to have this iconography, this imagery, these themes that are being used in the game explained within the game, right?
Yes.
That's nice to have that somewhere, even if it's optional and long-winded.
Yeah, no, it's appreciated for sure, especially, I think, coming to it with some knowledge of how it's used in 5, but to have it very clearly delineated what's going on here is helpful for someone who didn't know that stuff.
Yeah. But we do have free time today, so what did you do during the day?
I hung out with my good pal Bebe and got him to rank 6.
Oh, cool. You're getting ahead of me on Bebe.
I don't know why I was trying to, I think, curve where you were going, and then I veered away. Anyway, but yeah, rank 6 with Bebe. So
we're pretty sort of off each other's patterns at this point, which
we'll figure it out.
I think it's neat. I like that there's so much variance in that regard. I said, you know what? I don't care that I should be hanging out with a student right now. I'm going to hang out with the old couple because they were at rank 9, ready to get to 10, and I just wanted to finish them off. So I did that. I got them to 10.
Nice. Congratulations. I had them available to hang out with when they were normally this week, but they're not ready to rank up. So I keep waiting because I'm like, maybe I'll see them on a walk with Koromaru, or maybe I'll get them up some other way. I'm trying to bide my time, but I've completed this one before. So
gotcha. Cool. Yeah. So we'll probably end up chatting about the old couple in the next week or two.
Feels like a reasonable, a little too much happening this week, but I think in the next couple of weeks,
Yeah, so heads up on that. Yeah, and then we get to the dorm in the evening, and the gang is sort of chatting and wants to chat to you, and we find out that Aigis is going to school.
What wacky hijinks could ensue now?
The robot's got a school uniform on. They dress her in the winter outfit so that her arms don't show. Yeah, so there's this cute little scene where Aigis says, I wanted to go to school, and Ikutsuki thought it wasn't a bad idea for some reason to have a war machine go to school, so, they are doing that.
On the site where the things she is meant to attack would be.
Mm-hmm.
No less. Like, it's not as if she's going to be far away. That is the scene of the action.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, no worries there. It is cute, though.
There's also a good interaction where the Koromaru wants to go to school, too, and they say no. And you say, yes, let Koromaru go to school.
Absolutely. I mean, let's be real. This dog is probably smarter than half the school, so.
It's probably true. What did you do during the evening, though?
What did I do? I was trying to find it just because I wrote down a couple small notes about the conversation with about Koromaru. I hung out with Tanaka and got him to rank 5.
Okay. I got him to rank 9 tonight. Yeah, so pretty close. I know. I didn't get him to 10 yet, but again, that's another one that in the next couple weeks, probably I'm going to be done with Tanaka, and maybe we talk about it, maybe wait for Jonathon, we'll see.
Makes sense. I've completed that one. I've completed both of the nighttime ones we have available currently, so if need be, I can always talk to them.
Yeah, well, we have at least Old Couple next, because that one's pretty simple, I think, and very frequently available. But that's the first, so let's go to the second. You immediately get to walk to school with Aigis, who's at the gate, and she joins your class, and she sits right next to you.
It's so the whole, where should she sit? And it's very clearly there. This whole scene of them basically freaking out about how to be normal and can't be normal because Aigis is around is very cute.
Yeah, Aigis is, not really blowing her cover very much, but Yukari is freaking out about it, and that's, more suspicious than anything else.
Oh, yeah, Aigis doesn't do anything too crazy. It's more the teacher, I think, is reading the record that says that she's a weapon and whatever. But it's mostly Yukari who is kind of blowing the cover here, which I do find very cute as the actual...
Why does her record say that?
I know. That's my thing is who put that there?
Maybe she filled it out.
That would make sense. Yeah.
Yeah. I also appreciate that this desk next to yours is empty. And Junpei's like, I don't think that's empty. I think the person that is sitting there is just skipping. And Miss Toriumi's like, well, not their desk anymore.
Works for me. Yeah.
This is the same teacher that made the person bring cake for her, a homemade cake. And I like this teacher. She's great.
She rules with abandon. She's like, sure, let there be turf wars for desks. I do not care. This is fun.
She doesn't get paid enough.
Definitely not.
Working in a haunted school. During the day, we're not actually allowed to do a thing because Akihiko says, hey, meet me after class. We're going to go talk to Shinji and make him join us. And you do.
Doesn't take much convincing, honestly.
Not this time, no. But the important thing here is that the key thing that convinces him this time is that Akihiko tells him that Ken has officially joined you and has the potential for to be a Persona user. And it was his own choice. Shinji's worried about it too, right? And then he meets you as just the leader and likes you as a leader and then is willing to join you for that. But really it's that, as soon as he hears that Ken is on your team, he's like, oh, I need to go back to, there's protective vibes there, right? Protective instincts to a certain degree.
Yeah. He basically is just like, is my room still good? Cool. I'll come.
Yeah.
but another new party member, back to back to back.
Yeah, it's like 3 in a week.
Yeah, it's been quick, and we're not that far removed from Aigis joining,
right?
Too. So it's a lot happening really quick with the team.
Yeah, I was very surprised that they did it this way, because again, the structure I am used to is full moon person, full moon person, full moon person, and that's not what happens here, and I'm fine with that. It was not, I don't think, because again, one of the criticisms we levied at Persona 5 was that you get Haru exceptionally late in the game, and you don't get much time with her as a result, right? So the idea that they're like, you know what, there's 4 more of these shadows, 4 more full moons, or whatever the pace is going to be, because we don't know exactly, but there's 4 more of these shadows, so let's just give you as many people as we can so that you have more time with them as we go forward, is like, I'm cool with that, ultimately.
Oh, yeah, I don't mind that, especially because I don't think this game makes as big a deal out of their introductions as, obviously, 5 has, the awakenings. This doesn't have that. So to have everyone kind of be rushed into the group to make sure you have them is, I think, fine in this case.
Totally. Yeah, it is overwhelming because they give you literally in the course of a week, they give you an entire new party's worth of characters, right?
Yeah. This was, I'm sure you did go back to Tartarus at some point this week. Yeah. And so it was actually a struggle for me to be like, I don't know who I want to bring.
Sure.
Yeah.
It was a struggle for me until I said, you know what, I'm just going to bring the 3 new people to try them out. And then I went, wow, this team kind of rips. And then I just sort of liked using them.
Yeah, they're pretty, I brought them all in too for my go. We can talk about that in a bit, but yeah, same.
But what did you do during the evening? Because that we just get to go back and actually do the evening.
Yes, I did. I want to mention when you go back to the dorm, there is that cute scene. If you go upstairs, you can see them talking outside of Aragaki's room. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that they're just all planning as he asked. He's like, is my room still good? And so to see them talking out there is really cute. I read books with Aigis. Nothing else happened. No new ability, just read books. I don't want to spoil it, but there was a very good bit in there. I don't know if you've read books with Aigis yet.
We did the same thing, and I think it was the second stage of that one.
Yeah.
You're talking about the ass crack joke?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. We won't spoil it if people haven't done that yet, but that second one for her with reading books has a legitimately phenomenal joke writing in it.
It's fantastic. I think they're doing a really good job. It is a very common trope of the robot understanding how human idioms work and all that. But I think it's just done really well here and delivered really well.
Yeah, it's not original, but that doesn't mean it's not good.
Exactly. Yeah, it is a thing that I'm not shocked is in the game, but I'm very happy with the way it is being communicated, and it makes Aigis very endearing in these cases.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the second. So let's move on to the third. So this is the day before the full moon.
2 days before.
2 days before.
I think. Yes. 2 days before.
2 days before. I mixed it up. Anyway, this is, I think, a fully normal day.
Yeah, other than the... Go ahead.
This is the only day of the week where basically nothing happens.
Yeah, this one's normal, other than the cruel mistress that is Elizabeth calling you 2 days before Tartarus to say there are people trapped there.
Yeah, there's another person that gets in there.
Yeah.
I've just grown to expect that they're going to make you go back to Tartarus the day before or whatever every time.
Yeah, it does feel like the game is very much saying, hey, you should really be leveled up enough before you go into this boss, so we're going to make it almost ridiculous for you not to go back in.
Yeah, although we can talk about the leveling thing. Let's talk about this a little bit now.
Sure.
One thing I've been noticing more about Tartarus trips is that a lot of the experience is consolidated into those border guardians.
Yes, that's fair.
So you'll do fights that are like 700 experience, and then you'll do a fight against a border guardian and it'll be 25,000.
It's funny you say that. I don't know when I had this realization in my first playthrough, but there was at some point when I was playing through Tartarus and I just went, oh, I don't have to fight every shadow on every floor. I can
Yes.
just skip some of these, and that's okay.
Yeah, especially because they really aren't a ton of experience sometimes.
Yeah.
They can be it feels very hard to just grind shadows for levels in this game comparatively. Like not impossible, but just time consuming.
It would take a lot of time. Yeah.
The base ones, like, I feel like if you were going to do that, you would want to use the fortune teller thing that makes harder or rarer shadows show up more often, and just sort of focus on fighting those ones more than anything else.
That's a good call. Yeah, I think that would probably make the most sense. It's not impossible. It is, just like you're saying, very time consuming. It's a thing where, if I feel like I'm at a skill check area, I have occasionally put on a podcast and just gone through a couple levels again and again.
Yeah.
While listening, and that's fine. But it is those border floors where you're going to really see the most significant gains. Yeah.
Yeah, and to its credit, this is not really a full complaint because, again, I don't feel like I've had to grind, right?
Sure.
I felt like I've been pretty well leveled just by going through and fighting most but not all of the enemies and doing that, and it's been enough, which is exactly what I want from an RPG like this, is making you engage with it, making you do the fights, but not forcing you to redo fights just to make basic progress.
Yeah, the border floors, the monad doors, and the bosses have felt challenging, but not overwhelming for the most part.
Sure.
And yeah, you can skip a couple of guys as you're going along. It's not the end of the world, but it doesn't feel out of whack here. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things at the beginning of this day on the 3rd, now that we got that stuff out of the way, Mitsuru, you have a conversation with Mitsuru before school, and Mitsuru mentions that this is the highest apathy cases have ever been. So there is an implication or kind of a explanation that, yes, each full moon is worse than the last as far as we can tell. Each time this is happening, and each time as we get closer to the full moon, the effect of apathy syndrome in the shadows is more extreme than it was the time before.
Yeah, it's not going away just because we've been here.
Yeah. So what did you do today? Both. Give me your day and your night.
Both. Since I had said I was kind of ignoring them before, I went and hung out with Haraga and got him to rank 4.
That's the art guy?
Yes, the art club, I guess it is.
The
also
art club doctor.
Yes, the very studious art boy. And I also went to Tartarus in the evening.
Cool.
So
okay.
This was me, which was really funny because when we talked about Tartarus last time, I will say, I thought I had done all of it. I stopped at a border floor because I was like, I need to go to bed that night. So I still had to do, 20 whatever floors.
Yeah, we must have stopped at a similar spot then.
Yeah.
I wasted time with Chihiro, just hung out with Chihiro for not a level, which I, maybe shouldn't have done, but just felt like doing that. And then I ended up cooking with Shinji tonight. Because Shinji I wanted to go to Tartarus, but I was like, you know what? I've heard this dude is a good cook. He's new. I want to get to know him. I'll cook with Shinji. And boy, he's not a good cook. He is a professional chef.
Yeah. I was going to ask, this is your first experience with him, in the dorm. So how was it for you?
He seems cool. He seems a lot softer. Not that he, once you see under his exterior, in his sort of comfort zone of just cooking, I appreciate how caring he is. He seems like a really kind dude under that shell. And I always got the vibe that he was a nice guy, but it is really cool to just sort of see. He seems like a really neat character. I like him. My first impression is I like him a lot.
Yeah, that's. I had a very similar initial reaction of, here is the sort of stereotypical gruff, but a heart of gold maybe underneath. Under his thick, cool coat, he is a good guy. What a surprise! But again, a trope that's done well, and I think he is interesting as soon as he joins. Yeah, you want to get to know him, I think.
Yeah. So that's the 3rd. Cool. Now we're on to the last day before the full moon. We have our final Junpei and Chidori scene. He goes excitedly to see her like a puppy dog who has been invited back for food. Her hand is fully healed, he notes. there's this cute little interaction where she asks him what he does to feel alive. And he says, I don't know, breathe? Which is very funny to me.
It's very Junpei.
Yeah, and there's just a little bit of back and forth. She mentions that her drawings are mostly just scribbles. They're not really like drawings, and she doesn't really understand herself very much, and drawing isn't really like, drawing is not really her passion, right? She just does it as a thing, is sort of the explanation there. And then Junpei gives a real answer and says that he feels most alive when he gets to play the hero, when he, is saving people. Knowing who he is, presumably, and he doesn't know who she is, says, oh, so you must be fighting in a place where no one can see you fight, and that's nice that you fight even though you won't get any recognition for it. And she sort of like warms up to him in that regard. And then she's like, so tell me more. And he just everything.
What's a smitten boy to do?
He is a security liability.
Oh, yeah. No, you don't. He's the one you don't tell the secrets to in the group.
Yeah.
It's not ideal. But yes, he just blows their whole cover. It's funny because, obviously, a week ago playing coy of where things go. We don't have to play too coy in terms of like where these couple of days go. It's I think this scene is even more interesting in retrospect once you know where it goes over the next couple of days, because him obviously telling her everything is such a big tip off. And I do think we can talk about this a little bit later, but it also does go to show that even though they have been watching them, they don't all have like a full understanding of how the group works, because she does think he is some sort of leader to a certain degree.
He's like, I'm the leader, I'm in charge, and she believes him. She thinks that is the truth.
And so you get all that, and I do really like that it ends. It is so ominous in retrospect, but the fact that she says "see you tomorrow" is a very oh yeah, man, that hurts afterward.
Yeah, she says "see you tomorrow," and then she's not there at the train station.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
It's good.
So this is the afternoon where you get a choice. Basically, there's two simultaneous, single-time, presumably, events that you can do. One is Aigis calling you and saying that Koromaru really wants to hang out, I guess. And then the other one is Mitsuru calling you and asking you to go and hang out with Shinji. Not hang out with, but go do something for her with Shinji.
Yeah.
What did you do?
I went to hang out with Suimitsu. No, I hung out with Aragaki. It would be so great if I'm like, I didn't care about my team. I want to hang out with the Gourmet King.
We would have ended the episode
fair.
Now.
Yeah, no, I hung out with Shinji. I think I had hung out with Koromaru in my first playthrough, so I want to hang out with Shinji at this first juncture.
Can I be real with you?
Yes.
Can I be just a real lame dude here?
Go for it.
I really wanted to hang out with Koromaru, but Mitsuru wanted to hang out with me. And I went, Mitsuru, I'll do anything for you.
What's really funny is you didn't have to say that, because as soon as you said, can I be real with you? I went, you did what Mitsuru wanted to do. Right? Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I said, yes, Mitsuru, what would you like? And she said, here's this paper, go somewhere else. And I went, oh.
And here you are making fun of Junpei for spilling all his secrets. You would tell Mitsuru everything.
Yeah, it's true. No, and it gives you, to be fair to the game, it gives you a chance to back out. She explains what she would like you to do, and you can be like, oh, I don't want to do that. I'm going to go hang out with the dog if you want. That's fine. But I figured it was, again, I know Koromaru. I'd like to hang out with Koromaru more. I want to see more of his story, but I don't know who Shinji is yet, and I want to know. The more opportunities I get to talk to him at this point, I'm going to take very specifically. So, like, Mitsuru was the reason I went there first, but then I was like, oh, I actually really do. I want to know more about Shinji. I want to hang out with him.
I mean, it makes sense because you are just presented with this character, so there is a natural inclination there. I will say also, I don't really think it's a spoiler to say, but they kind of seeded it. Koromaru likes to go outside, so I don't think this will be the only opportunity to hang out with Koromaru.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got sort of a vibe that his thing was going to be a little bit more of like a direct storyline that you might be able to revisit, and so
It's hard to say because I don't want to lead you astray, but I do feel like some of these exclamation points you do have a buffer zone of time, like some of them will reoccur.
yeah, that happened earlier in the game too. I think there was a Junpei one that showed up like a week later. If you checked the online thing,
Oh
there was
yeah.
like people hanging out with Junpei a week later.
So I do think you will get a chance if you want to go hang with. And similarly, I do think this Shinji one you might have been able to do a few days later as well. But
yeah.
yeah, it totally makes sense.
Well, that was the afternoon. I went to Tartarus in the evening. What did you do?
That also I will say got my courage to 5 because I was pretty low. My stats are low, so I finally got courage
Cool.
to 5. And then I watched a DVD with Ken
Cool.
because I wanted to bring him in and have him on the team more, similar to you. And it was like, well, I might as well try to start getting him to that place where he gets more bonuses. Yeah.
Sure. Any lingering Tartarus things you wanted to talk about? I got the theurgy that's King Frost and Black Frost.
Oh,
which
I
is
love
a fun
that one. Yeah, I didn't want to say that one yet, but yes, I have that one as well.
Yeah, so I got that. I mean, it's not a huge spoiler because it's literally a Elizabeth request, so
Yes,
you
yeah.
sort of know it's coming. Oh, that was really hard for me, actually. I had to look it up because one of the problems with having like the deluxe edition and the DLC is that the P5 personas replace some of the base game personas in the fusions. So King Frost is usually has like a few different ways to craft him, and in this version with the DLC stuff, there's like literally one, maybe two combinations of personas that will result in him.
That's crazy. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I got him very easily because I had Jack Frost and whoever, and yeah, it was
Yeah.
very easy for me to do.
Much harder with the DLC, which is a funny little thing,
That's
funny
really
little problem. Yeah.
But no, I don't think anything huge. There's a little bit of those, you can meet more shadows with kind of affectations to them, like distress
Right.
shadows or rage shadows, things like that. It doesn't do anything too crazy. It just, again, changes up the momentum here and there. This is very much like the part 2 of the area that we started last time that we were talking about. So nothing huge.
We talked about Koromaru, I think, last time.
Yeah.
How he's got those 2 abilities, which is really cool. Ken is really useful because he's also got 2 abilities, and he's got some support skills that are really useful, like he's got the one that gets rid of stat buffs for all enemies, which is really nice. And then Shinji doesn't have an element and doesn't have support abilities, and literally he's got this neat mechanic that's all about lowering his health and getting more theurgy when has lower health, and hits like a truck. He just hits
damage
so hard.
Yeah, he's a good one to level up. He also has some incredible weapons. He has one of my favorite weapons in the game. I won't spoil it, but it is one of my favorite weapons. And yeah, he's another one of those interesting give and take ones, I think, similar to Aegis in the sense of does a little bit of damage to themselves, but he does, I think, quite a bit, and then helps himself there. They are a good trio. You get a lot of ground. You have a lot of variety there. It is a good combo. It is definitely a more... Your character almost has to become the support. Ken a little bit. He has a little bit of healing. But
yeah.
It changes the dynamic.
It does. But I liked them as a trio. It was interesting to me, and I'm excited to play around with teams now, especially with this mechanic that I know about now of you can just catch a couple people up. It's a lot less pressure to do what I usually do in RPGs, like I've said, which is try to keep everyone equal level. That's just almost not possible in this game.
No.
Because enemies give you a lot less XP, and there are so many party members already that it's really hard to keep everyone up like I usually do.
Yeah, it's super helpful that that's in here because you will want to rely on some of them as the game goes on, I think, just because of like some of the bonus abilities that they have or things of that nature. But this trio is really fun. I did immediately go in and want to experiment with the 3 of them, and it is a good combo for really hitting hard. I do love that Ken's spear essentially has the shooting attribute on it, though. It is very funny.
Pierce.
Yes, yeah, Pierce.
piercing damage.
Which makes sense when it's pierce, but I think of it as the gun damage just because it's like it's Aigis shooting and Yukari with a bow and arrow.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put spear in the same, family of weapons, but
it's interesting, and maybe this is just the nature of it being an RPG, but it's interesting to me how much this game borrows from D&D mechanics in a lot of its things, or kind of has, if not borrows, but has parallels. Because like piercing, slashing, and bludgeoning damage are the 3 physical types in D&D, and then you've got these different elemental types, which obviously, a million games have different elemental types, but there's that as well. And then also I started even like in my head, I was trying to compare Aigis and Shinji, and I've started categorizing them almost into D&D classes where like Aigis is the paladin because she has a ton of health and hits hard, but also has support abilities and doesn't hit super hard. Whereas Shinji is just like the barbarian where he's just all in on like hitting damage, putting hurt on. That is like his main focus. And so that, I've started making those parallels in my head, and I'm sure it's just partly the nature of it just being an RPG, but it feels a little bit closer in my eyes, this one.
No, I mean, that makes sense. I think especially as you go further back in the RPG game canon, I think the D&D influences were more clear.
Yeah.
And we've moved away from there. Obviously, we've now kind of come full circle with like Baldur's Gate being D&D. But I do think those things, especially in like earlier Final Fantasies or maybe even some Dragon Quest to my knowledge, but I haven't really played those as much. But yeah, you can see more of the TTRPG influences the further you go back, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I think the most interesting thing is the new characters to play around with. I hope people out there had fun. I would love to know what people's teams are at this point, because like you said, you just have so many options now.
I usually have Yukari on. And we can talk about it actually tomorrow because there's the full moon as well. And we can talk about what teams we brought in for the full moon and the terrible mistake I made.
Let's do it.
So let's go to the next day. Why does it just say chat with Fuka? You talk with Fuka before you get to school? What are you doing, Tom, writing these notes? Come on.
Past Tom is really screwing over future Tom.
You chat with Fuka before school, I guess. There's nothing else written down.
I have Fuka when you go into the dark hour, but I didn't even write talking down to Fuka. So you're honestly ahead of me.
Moving on. There's this scene, this interstitial before you get to the dark hour where Junpei is sad that Chidori wasn't at the station and then gets kidnapped by Chidori. So, hey, there you go.
Though it's a mystery at first who got him, but yes, yeah.
Sure, yeah. You get to the dark hour. Fuka is having trouble locating the shadow, but she knows it's somewhere near the mall. Junpei is also missing, and they can't find him. She can't detect him within the building, but she says, I could look for him more, and Akutsuki sort of very on point is like, well, you guys are kids, you have moments, maybe he just wasn't in the mood to do this today. That's fine. Like, we'll get him later.
To be fair, we do have enough of a team.
Yes, exactly.
With our limitations of who we can bring into battle, we are good. But it is that funny thing of like, he's like that. It is also because of Junpei's character. I think Yukari is even like, this doesn't seem surprising. Like, really, this, of course, he doesn't show up. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's not out of character. It's sort of okay. So you just sort of say, you know what, we don't have time. Let's just go do this shadow. Because again, the thing that I keep forgetting about, because it's a game and there's no time limit, is they only have an hour, right? Yeah. They only have an hour to find this thing, get to it, and beat it, which is not a lot of time. So they can't wait. They just have to go. And they do. So you go to the mall. And Fuka, again, can only barely detect it. And the reveal here is that Mitsuru is like, maybe we can do something else. And she gets kind of defensive and mad, right? She says like, no. This is literally why I'm on the team. Let me look. And she senses this web underneath them. And then Aigis says, well, this used to be the main power station for the island at the mall. And there's a web of power cables running underneath it. So maybe that's what it is. And she determines that, yes, the power cables are being possessed by the shadow in the same way that the train car was at the very beginning of the game. Then cut to Chidori on the roof of your building having tied up Junpei, and she tells him to pass orders to his team because she thinks he's the leader to call off the whole operation or else. And he says, nah. And then you cut back to what's going on here. Fuka's trying to locate the specific body of the shadow and says that it's in an underground room. Shinji says that Escapade at one point remodeled an old power room to be their control room, and that probably it's there. Yeah. They say, all right, let's do it. And, oh, look, oh, you're in a boss. You're in a boss fight.
So
hey, there's the boss.
What'd you do?
Okay. So, well, first of all, let's talk about this. I've talked a lot about how I thought that the first train full moon set poor expectations for the rest of the full moons because they had these interstitial fights, and then you had the Love Hotel, which was this little puzzly game, and then you had the underground military facility, which was a thing. This is just nothing. It's like, I didn't mind this full moon, but literally there's no interaction. You don't even walk to the room. There's just a fight. There's no twist to the fight, and then the fight is over and you go home.
It is just, I think, in the sense of what it's going for, it is so more concerned with the Junpei Chidori of it all that it's...
Yes, it is.
It doesn't
so
feel
much
like
more focused on that.
Yeah, which I think is fair. It is obviously the more interesting thing.
Yes,
so,
it totally is.
But to your point, this is perhaps the most stripped down. This is just, hey, we're going right in. We're going to fight. And also, this can be a pretty long battle.
Yeah, the Shadow has a ton of health.
I won't lie. I was hanging laundry during this battle because it was taking me so long. I was like, I have other stuff to do right now.
It has a ton of health, and it's not like the last fight with the tank where you remember when we were talking about that fight, I was like, oh, I was doing so little damage, I knew there was going to be another phase, right? This is like, I was doing so little damage, I knew there was going to be another phase, and then there wasn't. Then it just had that much health.
Yeah, it is, I think, the most just knockout, drawn out, here we go. We are just going to keep fighting and whittling down boss that we've had so far.
And it's not a terrible fight in terms of, you hit it when it's charging up energy, and then it'll do big charge attacks, and you got to plan your blocks a little bit. And, there's some interplay there, but it's otherwise relatively straightforward the whole time. This giant wire monster. And here's my mistake. I was trying to think about who to use, and I was like, I'm just going to take the 3 boys in that I was just doing. And then I went, you know what? I really do want a healer, so I'll bring Yukari. And then I got into the fight, and it was a giant electricity monster, and I went, oh, right.
Don't blame yourself.
Yeah.
Don't blame yourself too much, because I have played this boss fight before and still brought Yukari because I forgot. I just straight up was like, well, I do need a healer. And even though Ken has a healing ability, I forgot. And I was just like, I'm going to rely on good old Yukari because that's what I did for 90 hours before.
I almost brought Yukari and Aegis, though. So for those who don't remember, Yukari is weak to electricity. I feel like the difference in this fight between having one party member that is weak to electricity and not is substantial. Because this boss just gets 1-mores all the time if you have one party member that is weak. And that can be a substantial amount of extra damage being dealt. And not only that, there's also a lot more moments where when you have to block with Yukari to stop that from happening. So you're either fighting with 3 people or your whole party is taking more damage and then you're using her turn to heal every time, right?
Yeah, it can be a bit calamitous, especially because for me, with this fight, it is also so focused on debuffing the boss. You really need to keep its attack and defense down if you want to make sure, especially if you have someone who's weak, they're not getting one-shotted or very close to it, and you are able to be doing as much damage as possible. You really need to also be thinking about maximizing your theurgy, because that's just where you're going to do the most damage. You're really trying to, I think, use everything here, and having just one person who's weak to it complicates that by orders of magnitude.
I will say, it did help me discover a pretty neat synergy, which is Yukari and Shinji, because Shinji can use his crit and attack rate up thing that deals like 150 damage to himself, and then Yukari can immediately heal it with diorama. And if you do diorama into that move, she only needs to heal Shinji like 3 times, I think, and then her theurgy is full. You get an immense amount of theurgy for her just by healing him after he uses that move. It's literally like 3 or 4 times and her theurgy is back.
That's amazing. And you're going to go through that in that boss battle, so yeah.
I did indeed, yes. Yeah, so overall, fairly straightforward full moon fight. Not really much to dig into. It was neat. I liked the boss design. It was fine. It was just sort of a not anticlimactic. It was only a climax. It didn't have anything before. It was just like, right, the Chidori story stuff is the before and after, and then this was just, hey, here's a fight.
Yeah, I think this right now is so much more focused on the character stuff that the full moon is almost just the obligation on the calendar that you need to get through to get to the really interesting character stuff, and that's fine. I'm not upset about it. But
it did feel that way, yeah.
Yeah, I want to. It is an excuse to have Chidori betray Junpei in this way.
Right. So let's get back to that then, shall we? So you beat this guy, and again, it's very sort of it's very quick. It's just like, oh, we're getting a sense that Junpei is back at the base, I guess. Let's run back. And so you go back. She mentions that her persona, this is now Chidori, says that her persona Medea let her see from a very far away that they had beaten the shadow already. She asks Junpei why he didn't call off the operation, and he's like, because I'm not the leader.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, and then also there's some genuine moments happening here where he asks if it was all an act, if the cut on her hand was an act, if her seeming sad was an act, right? All of this stuff, and she really actually seems broken up about it, right? She seems a little bit like, wait, no, I maybe actually did like you, but also I was using you, and he seems genuinely hurt that he was used. And then everybody arrives, and she pulls out her evoker to summon Medea, and before she does, Junpei, while handcuffed, just decks her from behind and knocks her down and knocks her evoker out of her hand. So I love this moment from Junpei because even amidst having conflicted emotions for this person and conflicted feelings about the whole situation, he still knows, like, I have to do this, I have to stop her from doing something drastic and hurting my friends or whatever here.
Well, and he is also probably in this situation the best primed to action because everyone else is shocked and surprised and still dealing with the suddenness of this scene that they're in, whereas he's been on the roof with her for the past however long. So he knows what he's dealing with. He knows how to do this. And even though it is a brutal thing to go do and immediately just jump in, he is the best person situated to do it. And also, I think, probably just on an emotional level too, because I think it has the biggest impact for him to be the one who chooses to take action here.
Yes, definitely. Fuka mentions that she couldn't even detect Chidori was here, and I think, is it brought up later? She was the reason Chidori's persona was the reason that Fuka was having trouble, right?
That's
so there's this moment.
Yeah.
There's this moment in this day where Fuka starts getting really self-conscious about not being able to detect, and it sort of fades after this day because there's a very specific reason for why it was happening. It was not like actually her coming up short. It was actually her powering through someone working against her, which is kind of goes to show how cool Fuka is and how powerful she is.
She's great.
And then you take her into custody, take Chidori into custody, and she seems really distressed that she can't call her persona, like really emotionally panicked that she's not able to call Medea. And that's where the day ends, I believe.
Yeah, they say Ikutsuki is going to have her placed under watch in a hospital, but we get there the next day, so yeah.
Yeah. So then, and that's where the 6th starts, is you're actually in the hospital. Mitsuru is basically interrogating her, but Chidori won't won't say a word about anything, and it's just drawing in her notebook. And Junpei barges in and just wants to talk to her and check on her and make sure she's okay, which is very sweet. He actually cares about her still, and she seems to still silently but respond to him a little more than the others, I think, at this point.
It was like a slight acknowledgement, yeah.
But it all breaks apart when Mitsuru mentions her evoker, and she gets really upset and wants it back and kind of is almost obsessed with her persona. But then we have a normal day. We have a day and a night. So what did you do on this day and night?
We're just chilling and relaxing after having an extremely distressing battle and an infiltration into our group. Boy, time to go hang out with people. So I went and hung out with Kamiki for rank 3.
Me too. I got him rank 1.
Awesome. So you officially started that one. You didn't just get it.
Yeah. I actually started it, and I met him for the very first time, which means that, of course, I know his tragic backstory now.
Yes. Well, obviously, yeah. Well, up there, we'll talk, but up there for the most tragic.
It seems that he immediately. I mean, I'm going to spoil the very beginning of it, people. He immediately is like, I have an incurable terminal hereditary disease. And you're like, oh, okay, boyo, that's the starting point?
Yeah.
This is where we're starting?
Yeah. We'll talk about this one as it goes on. I think
that said, I'm really excited to see more of it, because he seems like a really interesting character, and that seems like a really interesting angle to discuss with this person.
Yeah, we're obviously dealing with a lot of different looks at life and existence and all that stuff in this game, and so this is a very, very interesting one to go into for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's been themes, about death and what are you doing with your time and making the most of life and all that sort of stuff, and so to have a character sort of be explicitly that running out of time is. I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, it's very much that theme writ large. We'll get there and talk about that. I have a lot of thoughts about it. This one I like
and
this one.
Also I'm excited about it because it's not just some freaking scammer or some kid who's eating a sandwich all the time. Like, this is the first.
How dare you?
Or the track guy was fine, right? What's his name?
Kaz.
No,
Miyamoto?
the new track guy.
Hayase.
Hayase, thank you, Hayase. Hayase is interesting, but sort of yeah, sure, he's a friend. This is the first guy that I've been like, oh, I would like to know you more in a while.
We'll talk about him as we go on, but yeah.
What did you do during the evening?
I made coffee with Ken, even though this kid should not be drinking coffee at night. I hope it was decaf.
Yeah, I did too, and I really liked that interaction because he's also very cute about it. He acknowledges that he's very young to be drinking coffee, and there's all these cute little kid moments that come through where he's like, he drinks it and he's like, my mouth is gross, and then he's like, I mean, it's very rich and bold, and he's trying to power through black coffee.
It's so cute. Yeah,
milk and sugar is for children. Yeah, so that's the end of that day, and we're powering right through. We're on the last day. Yukari before school is worried about why Junpei cares so much about Chidori. Is an interesting little thing. He doesn't understand, or she doesn't understand crushes, I guess, but well, there you go.
I do think, I obviously, as we end the week, I would love to know your thoughts of where the storyline has progressed after last week, because it's obviously not done, but I do think it is that interesting thing of this is very clearly a relationship outside the group, that it's probably the one that has mattered most to someone, save Shinji, I guess, but now he's in the group, so it's, that doesn't quite qualify. But here we've seen someone within the group actively go out, actively try to foster this relationship, and it's completely thrown in their face.
Yeah.
But we don't know about all that necessarily. I don't know how clear it is that what Junpei has told people by this point.
It's true, yeah. Our character wouldn't even really know about that yet. What do you do, I guess, for both? Because there's not anything until the end of this?
It's the dark hour scene at the end, yeah.
Yeah, so what do you do for both of these?
I got Odagiri to rank 10.
Oh,
So
Daiquiri.
I have finished the student council.
Nice. I got him to 7, so I'm catching up.
Cool. And then I watched TV with Koromaru, and he gained a new ability.
Nice. You get the Wolfpack
Yeah.
show. I gardened with Shinji. I wanted to hang out with him more.
Nice.
And again, I really like him. He's super serious about what he's doing, and he's new team dad.
Yep. Yeah.
Akihiko was not team dad. Akihiko was fill-in team dad, and now his foster brother is now team dad.
Yeah. It's very cute how quickly he settles into that mold. It works great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was another thing I liked, is that their personas are brothers. They're half brothers.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So they're the same model, but then with different things kind of around them, and so it's cute. I like that. I like that connection.
Yeah.
The final scene of this week is this Dark Hour scene, where you're actually looking at Strega. You're looking at Takaya and
Jin.
Glasses McGee. Jin.
Sure.
Yes, thank you.
I mean, right now he's basically just been like, "Hey, boss, are we gonna get these guys?" That's the extent of his. Yeah.
So obviously Chidori's been missing for 2 days at this point. So they're talking about that. They know she's gone. And Takaya kind of rightly says, if she's gone and she has not broken out of wherever she is, that means she probably doesn't have her evoker, because she is, not murdering whoever has her captive, basically. They need to focus on getting the evoker back rather than saving her, because if they give her her evoker, she will be able to escape, right? He also explains that the gun thing that you got from that giant slime shadow that you fought with Takaya is a prototype evoker, and he knows what it is specifically. And he starts to talk about, very clearly, he's not saying things directly, but this scene isn't just exposition, it's just revealing that he knows a lot more about these things. And so here's a couple of notes that I kind of took on it. He mentions that evokers back then and personas in general would take a toll, and the personas, because these prototype evokers were not as good, so they would take a toll every time you used them, and the personas you would get harder and harder to control. And he said that was especially true for people like them, who had their personas forced upon them, right? They didn't awaken to them, apparently. They literally had this done to them so that they could use a persona. And he has this quote that says, "In those days, it was more common to be killed by your own personas." And then he even says that this prototype evoker is a result of that, which I guess implies that slime thing was someone's persona, is the way I read into it, and that it had killed its owner and taken the evoker. I don't, this is a speculation, but that's sort of what the implication here is, and that he was one of the earliest in whatever this program was to give, I'm assuming, the Kirijo group giving people personas and abusing shadows in their research, and that he was tied to that in some way. And then Glasses McGee says, "But why don't you need to use a evoker?"
Hey, boss, why aren't you using one?
Yeah. And he says he doesn't need to prove his resolve. And that's what the evoker is supposed to do, is to prove your resolve. So now we have, finally, any little bit of information about why an evoker is used. And then he says maybe he's starting to feel attached to your character. And then he laughs maniacally for 10 seconds and says, "Never mind, that's silly."
Yep. Yeah, it does real long maniacal laugh and then fades away into the night.
Jonathan, tell me about what you think of this scene, even though I know you know more. But, this is a wild scene. It's just, I really appreciate how little exposition there actually is for how exposition heavy the scene is, if that makes sense.
No, I totally get what you mean. I think this is a well-done scene for that purpose. Yeah, without obviously talking about larger contexts. I do think, one, to your point, it's nice that we finally have a little bit more understanding of why evokers are used. You get to learn a little bit more about how Strega is, and we know that there's a difference now between them and us in terms of their persona relationship.
Yes.
It's setting up the stakes of why it's so important, though, especially for Chidori to have it. We do get this understanding of I like the history that it imbues in it, of like, to your point of him talking about back in the old days, like this is how bad it used to be, and to show you the evolution of how things have changed. I think that is really interesting context to have, especially in light of, and I know we haven't talked about these and said we will at some point. I'm kind of not sure when it will be best to, but we are obviously also learning about other research elements through the notes that we're getting.
Yeah.
In Tartarus, and we should dive into those at some point.
Yes.
But, I think painting the full picture of what happened years ago is really interesting. And I will say a thing that at the beginning of the game, I didn't expect to be so invested in learning more about. I didn't think the past would be so interesting to me as it is in this game.
Totally. Yeah. Can I just say, and you're going to have to keep a straight face for this, I'm sure, but I will just maintain right now, and I will eat crow if I am fully wrong on this by the end of the game. Still fully think Akutsuki's going to have a heel turn and be a bad guy. There's like, absolutely nothing has happened yet that has made me be like, I'm fully wrong about that. I still think everything I'm learning is that the Kirijo group sucked, and he has been involved with it for a while. You know what I mean? So I'm just putting that out there now. I bet Akutsuki knows who this dude is. That was my read on this situation.
Can I ask if there's anything else you are feeling long term about the game too, in terms of where you think things are heading?
The Chidori Junpei relationship is interesting. I think she could turn in some way or die. I'm not sure which.
Drastic, but
yeah. I don't know. Longer term, I do think that Strega is not going to be the final villain long term. I don't think that Takaya is going to be the final boss fight. I think that somebody in the Kirijo group is. Gotcha. Or, because it's a JRPG, God, probably. But yeah, I think that the instigator of all of this, the person you're going to have to defeat to really end all of it, is not who we're being told it is right now, is my vibe.
Gotcha.
And is not, I think the goals we're working towards are going to be working to do something that we're not being told, and we're going to have a revelation moment and have to figure some stuff out. That's how everything feels like it's going.
Gotcha.
I don't have any idea if any of that's true, right? But
sure. Yeah.
That's where I would, if I was making predictions, that's where my money would be.
Cool. Yeah. I'm just curious where your head is at as I would say, get into some pretty, like, now that we have such a stacked party and we are seeing some pretty important party related, emotional arcs happen. Was curious where your head was at with things.
Yeah. It's a good time to check in on a full moon. That's it for the week. Do we have some comments?
We do. I wanted to read over from a few people. I think I said pew people. So I'm doing great. I'm fine. Over at patreon.com/takeyourtime. We just had some very thoughtful comments after last week's conversations that I wanted to dig into, because I really appreciated what we heard from the audience. Mark wrote in and said, if you've followed discussions around P3 for the last decade or so, you might have heard the sentiment that the social links or confidants got better as the series went on. Social links tend to reflect the broader themes of the game. So in Persona 5, there were a lot of confidants who were either wrongfully accused or who were trying to atone for past mistakes and walk the path of righteousness, but were inhibited by social forces that were judgmental and or corrupt. Spoilers for these social links as I described them. Kenji's and Maya's social links serve a similar purpose, because we were talking about how we feel about the ones we've done so far in P3, and I think they are really mirror one another to a certain extent. Kenji is a bored high school student who decides to date his teacher mostly because he's bored of his day-to-day routine. Toriumi seems to also be stuck in a rut with her job and spends her days online with an old MMO that she played back in her school days. In the broader context of the game, what is apathy syndrome but a metaphor for despair brought on by lacking a purpose in life? Both of them end their social links by resolving to stop wasting their time with frivolous pursuits and to rededicate themselves to studying and teaching respectively. Let me see.
I like that read.
Yeah. Ultimately,
like that
whether
read.
or not people like certain social links is a matter of taste, but I think there is a point to them. Playing P3 again through Reload made me realize that. Anyway, thanks for the great podcast. Looking forward to next week's episode. And I totally agree. I think whether or not we end up liking them, I do think there are points to them. But
yeah, for sure.
And I appreciate that read, especially of the two in context.
Yeah, totally. No, I think that is a I will go in with a little bit more of an open mind towards some of these. Let me say that, because I do appreciate that. I do think Kenji's is still weird.
Yes.
but the idea that it is framed within a theme and a context that is the larger game explores is totally valid and important to bring up. So thank you for that.
Yeah. I will say I do think it is true of pretty much all of them, varying degrees of whether or not I like them aside. I do think they relate back to stuff, but I don't want to say too much until we go through the rest of the game. But yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Also, Nick wrote in and said, a few thoughts from this week's episode. Koromaru and Ken's movesets had a significant evolution Reload from the original version. Previously, the only light and dark spells in the game were the Hama and Mudo insta-kill spells.
Interesting.
In Reload, they added the damage spells that were later added in the Persona series. As a result, Koromaru and Ken definitely became much more versatile, as they now both have 2 damage spell classes as opposed to 1 damage spell and an insta-kill.
That explains it. That's really, really interesting to know.
Yeah. I that's really fascinating for me. They also said, I actually found the Arcana to add an extra card take in shuffle time to be a double-edged sword. In my experience, there were 2 to 3 other Arcanas that I found to be mandatory to get. I definitely had times where taking an extra card forced me to take Arcana cards I didn't want. And because you only get so many Arcana slots each run, I had a run or two where I ended up getting locked out of being able to get the Arcana cards I wanted. After that, I ended up trying to purposefully avoid picking the bonus card Arcana until after I got the ones I did. Then at that point, the bonus card definitely became the next most important, which I totally get, because you do end up in a place sometimes where you get 3 or 4 battles in a row and it's like all you can get are essentially cards and raised HP by 50% in the next battle, or 1 attack does extra bonus, and that's not the same as getting XP and money doubled, XP and money or increased. You know? There is a difference there, so I totally get that. Anyway, Dexter also said, after having finished the Monad Passageway on floor 117, I do not regret buying all the homunculi I did from the antique shop. And that is true. There are some. Did you do the final Monad Passage? That was the only other thing about Tartarus I wanted to ask.
No,
about.
I waited. I've just decided I'm just going to do those either at the beginning of the following Tartarus trip or something like that, you know?
That's fair. Yeah, these are hard. They are harder. So just as a warning, it's a tough one. But yeah, thank you to everyone who wrote in. I appreciated the thoughtfulness we got there, and some really nice
totally.
Sentiment about.
We got a smart community, y'all.
We do. They are too smart for me sometimes, unfortunately.
Close on a pop quiz?
Tell me what mind games you have.
Boy, I got a dumb one this time.
Ooh,
so you do get a moment in the Paulownia Mall during this full moon to explore a little bit and talk to people, including going down the hallway where Elizabeth usually is. And the velvet room door is gone during the dark hour. So the question is very simple, Jonathan. What's behind the velvet room door when it's not there? You never get to see behind it in the main game when you're going to the mall. So that's the question. And again, if you know, or especially if you don't, what is Elizabeth hiding behind the velvet room door in the mall?
Copy of Persona 6.
Yeah. You can let us know at dornology@gmail.com, at youtube.com/dornology, at patreon.com.
So close. We were so close.
I did so well at the beginning of the show that I had to just terribly screw it up.
You're riding that high straight to the ground.
Oh my God. Patreon.com/takeyourtime. I'm at Tom Marks on social places. He's at JM Dornbush. We'd love to hear from you. If you're enjoying the show, give it a thumbs up, give it a subscribe, leave a good rating. 5 stars, all that good stuff. We really do appreciate it. If you're not enjoying the show, you don't have to do that stuff. That's fine. But man, you've made it deep into this podcast, and I'm impressed.
Kudos to you for the hate listen. I do have actually one thing we probably maybe should have put up top, but it's fine. This is for the people all the way at the end of the show. I should have realized, because this episode will come out the week that the DLC, the episode Aegis DLC, is coming out.
Right.
That is obviously a thing it's sort of not going to come up in the main playthrough. It will not be a problem for us to table until the end of the show. I will be playing through it. Tom obviously needs to wait and will not see anything. I was thinking maybe, because my plan is probably to play it within the next couple weeks, maybe as a bonus, doing sort of my initial reaction thoughts. So I might record a solo show.
You could get Barrett.
Yeah, good call. That we may have to put that into the works. But yeah, it's sort of a, we will address the DLC when it has its proper due. But since it's coming out this week, just want people to know that, like, obviously we won't dig into it. And fair warning, if you are playing through the game along with us, do not watch anything related to the DLC. It will spoil things for you.
Yeah, I'm avoiding it like the plague. Please don't spoil it for me either. I'd really appreciate not. And I do think it's at least safe to say that we're going to cover it in some fashion for the show at the time it takes place in the timeline. So, further on. Yeah, that's that. I think that's all we got. Anything else, Jonathan?
So here's how the game ends.
Get out of here. Again, thank you everyone very much. If you'd like to support us, patreon.com/takeyourtime, but no pressure. We love having you here regardless. And until the next time, we shall see you later.